Welcome, everyone. I'm pleased to have you join us today. We're very fortunate to have Sonia Komisar from the Elder Financial Empowerment Project, that coalition of Wisconsin aging groups. Sonia, I'm going to let you take it away here. Please give us a little introduction first and then launch into your presentation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So, good morning, everybody. As Mike said, my name is Sonia Komisar. I'm the Victim Service Attorney and Project Director for the Coalition of Wisconsin Aging and Health Groups Elder Financial Empowerment Project. And today's presentation, Scams, What to Do If It Happens to You. This is a follow-up to the presentation that you guys attended last month, I believe, where the Dane County Deputy Sheriffs were presenting on scams. So before we get into it, first, an acknowledgement that our victim services, so we're two parts now. We have our victim services, which are supported by a Victims of Crime Act subgrant, awarded by the Wisconsin Department of Justice Office of Crime Victim Services under a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice Office for Victims of Crime. So that's what's bringing us today's presentation, as we're available to those 60 years of age or older statewide that have been the victim of a scam, fraud, identity theft, or abusive use of a financial power of attorney. Our services are free and we are confidential, and we're not a mandatory reporter. And so if somebody were to be scammed, and after we go through everything and today, and you don't feel comfortable doing these things on your own, we're here to assist with that. Typically, if somebody is looking to recover losses, we're no longer situated, because now our victim services is a part-time part of the project. We refer those out to, in the northern tier, to Judicare, in the southern tier, to Legal Action of Wisconsin, to try to litigate to recover losses. Because of budget cuts, where we're now doing 3/4 time as victim services on 50% of a budget, we've sought out additional funding, and we're awarded a grant from the Inclusive Foundation to do prevention type presentations. And that education and training materials and presentations are through that grant. So that's about 25% of what we're doing now. But that's exclusively to prevention. So in that side of things, we talk about doing education to different organizations and to individuals so that you never need victim services. And so we're looking to disrupt the scam cycle there at the education level. You may, if you go into a bank and you try to withdraw $20,000 in $100 bills, you may very well get asked by the bank teller, or if you try to move your retirement from somebody at that brokerage, why are you doing this? What are you going to use it for? And that is trying to disrupt the scam cycle at the buffer point of transaction. But what we do on our victim services is, in addition to helping people with the steps we're going to talk about, is also trying to tackle chronic susceptibility, because statistically we know that once somebody's targeted and gets hooked, they're going to keep targeting them repeatedly. And we want to disrupt that cycle to prevent it from happening again. And I do that as part of our victim services, because we want to address those underlying vulnerabilities and direct them to resources that may help them, so that they're stabilized and can move forward. But what we try to do in informing people is to identify what's going on so that everybody can participate in the cycle somewhere, to potentially disrupt it while it's in the process. And before we get there, when I'm presenting on my prevention side of things, we want people to always be aware of the 3 steps in a fraud playbook, because when you take the presentations like you had last month, or any other fraud or scam presentation, scammers are always evolving. So we need to understand the underlying components. We need to gain your trust in order to get you under the ether, that heightened state of emotion, so that you suspend your reason and are in a state of, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Please tell me what to do. When you feel yourself there, that's when they can walk you down the path and get you to do what they want you to do. And they're going to create that sense of urgency by telling you a story about somebody's in your bank account, they're draining it, now you need to do this. So be mindful of that with your interactions, whether it's coming through by email, text, or phone. We're all getting targeted all the time. And statistically, it's showing up, right? So this is from the Consumer Sentinel Network. And these numbers are from 2023. And there was 5.5 million reports. Now, 44% of them were coming from people 25 to 29. Only 25% of them were for folks 75 to 79. That's only a 5-year age spread. And that could also reflect the fact that younger people are more comfortable with this online reporting that we're going to talk about today than potentially older folks. So these are only those numbers reported, which we already assume are greatly undercounting what's actually going on there. That's still a lot of folks that are being targeted. 2024 numbers from the FTCs, that's the Federal Trade Commission, Consumer Sentinel Network, these are only for the first 3 quarters. The whole year numbers aren't out. And these are breaking down the top 10 fraud categories with imposter scams coming in at number 1. But again, these are a lot of folks reporting, and we know that number is underreported. So when it feels like it's just a matter of time, they're throwing out thousands of hooks out there. They're casting their lines, and they only need to get a couple of us a day to make their money, right? And so they just keep coming. I go through my emails every day. I get targeted multiple tries every day. One day I got hit with a call, an email, and a text within a matter of hours. These numbers here are for Wisconsin only. And again, these are just the first 3 quarters. And in the first 3 quarters, this is all age groups, $70 million in losses. And that's only those reported. Okay. My daughter got targeted. This wasn't last year, but she never reported. She lost $3,000. My mom got targeted. She didn't lose anything. So this number here, this 350 median loss, I don't like the number because it should be a bit more of a spread. Because if my mom reported being targeted and scammed, she didn't lose anything though. Sheer dumb luck prevented her from losing anything. My daughter lost but didn't report. I've had victims last year report tens of thousands of dollars for one victim in an imposter scam. We have investment scams that are losing even more. So the 350 median, I think, tends to minimize the problem because you see 350, well, I may be able to absorb that. That's not going to cause me too many sleepless nights. But if you lose tens of thousands of dollars, that's going to have psychological consequences manifesting themselves physically, affecting somebody's quality of life if all your liquid reserves have been taken. So this number I don't like. The rest of them, 70 million over 3 quarters, that's just the reported losses again, folks. Lots more money can be lost out there and is being lost. So, okay, you take all the precautions, you do all the things, you take all the trainings, you do what the deputy said to do, and somehow they caught you on the right day, the right scam, and they hooked you. Now what are you going to do? So first and foremost, what I would tell everybody is right now, today, decide who your call is going to be. Put it on by the phone, have it saved. Who's your call? Is it the ADRC? Is it my number? Is it the senior center? Who are you going to call if it happens? Because when we are stressed, these steps take time. And when we're stressed, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the process. I had my information exposed a number of years ago, and the first thing I did was notify the bank. It had to do with the payroll department. My bank account information may have been out there, or was out there. So I had to notify the bank. I needed my bank account closed. I needed to open a new account. It took me a half a day just to do the steps we're going to talk about. And then I still had a follow-up appointment. And I know what I'm doing on the computer. For those that aren't comfortable online, those that have difficulties navigating government websites and other websites other than shopping. You ever been on a government website? It's not as easy and user friendly sometimes as those. They've gotten a lot better though. But it's easy to get overwhelmed. And even while I was doing it, knowing what I needed to do, knowing how to navigate the sites, I still had to take a breath, right? Calm yourself down so you could think straight because we all know from our past experience, right? When we are stressed, we're not necessarily working at our best. So you got to, if it happens, you got to lock it down. So there's a lot going on too, right? If you've lost money, you're worried about trying to get your money back. And as I'm sure you were told last week, in some instances where crypto's involved, you have a very short window where you just might be able to get it reversed. So you're worried about how to undo and get that money back. But at the same time, you got to lock it down. So if you do have exposures, nobody can get at you, which is why it can get overwhelming. So you need to know again who is your go to person. Oftentimes, I had a conversation after a presentation yesterday, and the general consensus was they weren't going to contact their adult children for help for fear of how they were going to respond to the fact that mom or dad lost money, mom or dad got scammed. They can't be trusted to take care of their affairs. None of those women were going to report it to their kids. Then, which is fine, family dynamics do come into all of this. Then who is your go to person? Note it. Because once you do that, you got to cancel or freeze your credit cards. Now, I'm on apps. I have an app for everything on my phone. My daughter makes fun of me because I went from no apps before COVID to everything's online. I have an app for everything. My mother, 76, going to be 77, nothing. She doesn't do anything online. She's going to call her credit card company, which is problematic for her because she doesn't hear well. Some days I think she only hears every third word. So she's going to have to loop me in to help because she's not going to hear everything that person's saying. And that's the only way she's going to be able to do it. This happened. She fell victim to the Amazon scam. There's a problem with your account. And she tried very hard to get scammed, but she didn't lose any money. But shortly after she did it, she calls me at 9 o'clock at night and we got to lock down cancel her credit card. And I had to call and do a conference call if she can hear me, but she couldn't hear the representative on the phone. Social Security, again, are you online? Are you going to call? What are you going to do? And if you can't get through, some of these agencies, we all know, have staff issues. There's wait times, which adds to our stress and our frustration. So, who's going to help us deal with that? Sometimes a third party is going to have an easier time because they're not going to be so anxious sitting on hold. But you got to be part of it because of the sensitive information. And as much as we would like to say, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed, please do it, that's not possible with the information. You don't want somebody to be able to, you don't want me to be able to access your Social Security and have them talk to me. Once you've done that, you still have your credit report to review. I always pull a credit report when I'm meeting with a victim. We pull a credit report because oftentimes, once you get a few steps away from the actual incident, because of the stress, we may very well not remember all the information we divulged. So I just assume you gave out way too much. We go through everything. Pull a credit report. Now, I have two credit cards that offer it free as a free service through my bank. I can access it from what? The app on my phone. My mom, no, because she doesn't do that. I don't know if her banks do that. She uses small regional banks. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But she's not going to do it because it's not on her phone. Credit freezes. When I was exposed, first thing I did, go online, lock it down. Credit freeze. You can do fraud alerts, notifications to your creditors. I had to close and open those bank accounts. And then if you have information, you're on Medicare, state Medicare, senior Medicare patrol, go online and make a report there. I assist people in doing it. That's on through GUAR. And then credit repair disputes. If you do find something when you're reviewing your credit report, the balances are off, or there's accounts there that you didn't open. Now, this is a handout that I do have when I present in person, and this is a postcard that was available at ftc.gov publications. Been back ordered forever, but they do have a PDF download. For anybody that's interested, ftc.gov publications, if you Google it, they have a ton of information. If you work for an organization, you can order free tear sheets, postcards, bookmarks, placemats with all different kinds of information on scams. I have a delivery coming tomorrow. I constantly am reordering and ordering new materials to take to presentations. Again, free. Go check it out. Comes in multiple languages. You can download the PDFs and print because this clearly will make it clear to anybody what the differences are and where to find them. Um, it takes time though, because if you're doing a credit freeze, you have to go to each and every credit bureau, create an account, two-step verification. It took me 2 hours to do it for a gentleman because he wrote down his contact information. He wrote down an email that doesn't come to his phone. He used his landline, not his cell phone. So they were trying to text a code. And you need to set these up because with a freeze, you can't apply for tech credit yourself without opening it, unfreezing that account. So you have to be able to log back in and do it, unfreeze it, and then lock it back down. That's the surefire way. Nobody's going to be able to get credit. But some people don't like it. And so you have to make a choice. But it's a card to keep available because when I was doing it, I didn't have that information. And sometimes Google is not our friend. It leads us astray to fake sites. And other times it sends you to their sales site and it's hard to get to this reporting and freeze site from there. I don't think you can even do it. I couldn't. And I know what I'm doing, but I was stressed and it took me a long time. Now, reporting. We want people to report what's happened so those numbers are more accurate because that 350 per loss, median loss, means nothing. People latch onto it to kind of dismiss this as a problem. Even though the numbers get big in some reports, they like to minimize the damage so that they can redirect resources elsewhere and not to this. Also, we want them, there's a chance of getting your money back through some of the reporting. Not necessarily, but something like IC3, they can find trends and maybe they can then find the culprit. But this gets oftentimes left undone because if we've already had to contact, say, Legal Action of Wisconsin to try to get our money back by suing somebody because we know who scammed us, if we've had to contact like my office for assistance in going through all those steps to lock it down, we have to talk to another private attorney because we need to get some decisional supports in place to prevent it from happening again. By the time we've dealt with all of that, like it's easy to check out and say, yeah, no, I'm done. I don't want to go through anything more. I don't want to deal with a website. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to get my money back. If they can't help me get my money back, I don't want to deal with anymore. But we want those numbers to be accurate. And there is a chance that some good will come of it. And especially when you're talking about, say, DATCAP, Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection, those complaints can be accessed by the next person that might be checking out, say, that home repair guy that ripped you off, so that they'll have a heads up not to use them. So it can have some really immediate results by protecting somebody else. Now, when you're looking, you've got to be mindful of where you're at and that you're on the .gov websites because unfortunately, there's some fake websites out there that will purport to help people. And we've had victims of, say, a scam then fall victim to, say, a debt consolidation scammer because they Googled and one of those results was for a scam site. And so they lost further money on that repeat or follow up scam. .gov, very important to look for .gov because anybody can set up a .com. And all they have to do is get you on that heightened state of emotion and you might miss it. I had to deal with an issue. I deal with lots of government agencies for work, and I had to deal with something for my work that I didn't think I should have to. So I was agitated and irritated. And after I resolved it, I saw an email and I'm like, what is going on here? I called the number, left a snarky message. And then I get a piece of paper forwarded to me from my boss that he'd received in the mail. And I'm like, am I never going to get done with this? So I'm on hold to that number. While I'm on hold, I had time to take a breath. And then I hung up. It was a .com, a government agency.com. I That was a scam. And I tried twice that afternoon to get through to them. Fortunately, I didn't. That's all it takes is being in the wrong state of mind at the right time for the scammer, and we can lose money. So be mindful of the .gov, even on the reporting sites, because there's a lot of follow-up scammers. There's a lot of scams involving the follow-up from this is an attorney going to help you. And I'm sure when you attend scam presentations, that's always the thing to be mindful of. Who initiated the contact? An attorney calls you out of the blue to help you with your problem or miraculously emails you. That's not a miracle. That's data mining. And it's most likely one of these follow-up scams. So be mindful of the .govs here, but you report it. And after you report it, they will tell you the next steps. Now, if you've already done the locking it down that we described a few minutes ago, this may be redundant, but they also may point out something you missed in the process too, because again, lots of moving parts, lots of things you need to lock down. And so it will lead you down the path as well and give you some tips in addition to letting you report. Now, before anybody reports, and often before I'll even have them come into my office because, we schedule you out a week or so, I have people do timeline. What happened and when to the best of their recollection. Have time to review it because oftentimes you're going to have to explain what happened. And sometimes it's easy to forget what's happened. And if you tell the story and trust it to somebody else to enter it, well, then you get to play a little telephone, right? You're trusting them to have heard you accurately, then enter it accurately. And oftentimes you're able to upload documents such as to DATCAP, the Better Business Bureau, so things don't get lost in translation. Identitytheft.gov, social security numbers out there. Somebody may have tried to apply for a loan or a credit card in your name. You need to report it. Now, on their site, I had a victim that had their information stolen and they applied for a loan. We went here and there when you enter in what happened and you get to check some boxes, what type of scam, we ended up being directed to another site where we could fill out an IRS affidavit. So the IRS got the heads up that, hey, there could be a fraudulent tax return filed. So there was a link right from there. We didn't have to go to the irs.gov website and find that form. It was linked. So it streamlines your reporting, sometimes flags out process, links you to the process for the next steps or two. Part of your recovery plan, it will actually walk you to those sites. And then putting your plan in action. Again, it's nice to have these checklists. When I present in person, have a checklist so that you can try to keep it organized. Because again, you've got seeking the return of your money potentially out there, as well as dealing with bank accounts, retirement accounts, your online logins, your credit cards. It's a lot of information for some people. My mom she does have two bank accounts, one credit card. That's it. Locking her down wasn't that difficult. I'm a little more difficult, but there's others that have multiple income streams. They have multiple accounts, retirement accounts, investment accounts. It's complicated really quickly to lock it all down. Welcome to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. This is what we call IC3. And again, it's an official website of the government. So anything that was utilizing the internet to scam you, you file a complaint here. So again, multiple sites already, trying to keep track. Where do I go? Where do I report? It can be overwhelming for some folks, and that's why you need to know, who do I call? Who can I ask for help in doing this? I'm Wisconsin Department of Ag Trade and Consumer Protection. We file reports here when we've had I've I've done it and assisted victims that were scammed by a home repair guy. And we went here, filed our complaint. You explain what happened and you can upload support documents. Now with DATCAP and Better Business Bureau, they're going to contact the vendor. So in this case, they contacted the home repair scammer and then he has the chance to answer. And then it goes forward with an investigation or not. Now, the plus side is those complaints they're documented. So the next person that looks up that company, that business, is going to show. So when I needed to deal with somebody for some foundation work, I looked up the company, got to practice what I preach, right? So I looked them up to see if there was complaints filed. And then you have to weigh the odds because sometimes complaints get filed just like bad reviews, right? So you need to weigh that. The Better Business Bureau site, you're going to look down here, file a complaint. That's going to take you to the next site. How can we help? Now, here you can say, I'm just reporting it. I want others to know about it, but I'm not expecting an investigation. So you get to choose what you're doing. And there's other avenues for reporting. There's the Bureau of Comptrollers for problems with banks. Um, if there's somebody that's licensed, you can report through the regulatory authorities. We lost or maybe losing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're lost right now. It's in litigation. Evidentiary, second part of an evidentiary hearing is taking place today on that case, which is really unfortunate, but we still have these resources to utilize. All right, so you do all of that. Legal actions trying to get your money back. You've reported everything, locked it down. You still need to monitor. So you got to be reading those. You got to keep checking your credit report. You got to read your credit card statements, your bank statements, and they can sometimes not be as clear as we'd like, right? If we've all shopped at Amazon, I can place a $100 order at Amazon, but it shows up as three different transactions on my statement. And I shopped in my head, Amazon, there's three companies I don't know. I don't know the dollar amounts. It becomes really difficult to track everything. Sometimes it's going to show up as a parent company. I did this. I got a call from Capital One. Is this your charge? And they told me the company, and I didn't recognize that. So I said no. So they blocked it, denied it. Turns out it was the parent company of something I ordered. So, oh well, worst case scenario, they mailed me an invoice. They get paid. They don't care. We need to be mindful of the fact that this may not be clear to us. And again, there's no shame in reaching out to help, to have somebody go through the statements with us to make sure that we understand the transactions. I do everything auto pay, a lot of auto pay. And I had a $4 something charge. And it's like, I never have anything. What is that? But I went back through, it was on Apple Pay, checked it out, and oh, I renewed a subscription, but I got the new rate, and monthly was only $4. But I checked it out because sometimes it'll be a small dollar amount just to see if they can get away with it. So you really do need to be mindful of your transactions. I have things like my credit cards, especially if you've had an exposure. I have it set that I get an email text for every single transaction on my cards. So I can decline and deal with it right away. It's annoying, but I know what's going on. With phone calls, I have my mom. My mom does not answer a number that's not in her contacts anymore. They don't leave a message. So if somebody contacts her, they don't leave a message. Oh, well, she's never going to deal with it because she does not answer anything she doesn't know. Now, sometimes she got in trouble because it was the fraud department. They locked down her credit card, but that's better than the alternative. Don't open email that you don't recognize. I talked to a woman that showed me her email. It was a company she'd never done business with. She opened the email and it had the Citibank symbol on it saying there was a charge pending. Well, she does have a Citibank card. So she was concerned. And then it says, is this your charge or not? And I'm like, it's not a company you did business with. It was a scam solicitation. She goes, what happens if I click? I don't know. I don't want to find out. Delete it. If you have a question about something that comes through your email after all this happened, especially if you've had an exposure, go to your account. I know some people don't like the computers. They don't have computers. They don't trust the apps. Then who's your person that can help you with that? Because you really do need to be able to access your account so you can check at that point, is there anything pending? If you go onto your accounts, there is a big section, it says pending. These transactions don't go through immediately. You will see if there's a charge pending and you can deal with it right away. But the only way to do that though is by being able to monitor it either on your phone app or online. And for those that don't do it, who's your person that you can check in with weekly or when something pops up so that you can check, because that's far safer than responding to any email that might be alluding to an account you have, such as this woman that said the company was charging her Citibank. Stay mindful of your internet use. We all get targeted by virtue of the data mining that goes on. So some are just general because of our age and our demographics. A lot of it's by our internet use, what our likes are, what we view on social media. I do a lot of Googling to help clients find resources or to verify information. I get inundated with all kinds of scams all day long, every day. But I also get targeted because I used to be in private practice and had my own business. My mom gets targeted differently based on her demographic. My daughter she gets targeted differently because of hers and her internet use. So it's very customized, the scammers targeting us, which is really sad because it makes it harder to make blanket statements in presentations, which is why we need to be mindful of those 3 steps in the fraud playbook because they're very fine tuned and going to get more so, I'm afraid. And it's the Wild West out there. So we really need to do what we can do to protect ourselves. And it really is hard to get money back and to find the resources in certain communities to even help with that. There's staffing shortages before, funding issues are, kind of bleak on the grant front. So we need to be mindful of what we can do ourselves. You get targeted going forward. Yeah, as if all that wasn't enough, you're going to change all your passwords and your logins because you don't know what's been compromised. And I don't know, like I said, I'm online for everything. It is ridiculously time consuming to have to go through and do all this and try to create new passwords. I don't trust the little password banks. Uh, I've attended different uh, webinars on IT saying what you should do when you can use them. Just a little skeptical. That's my own personal issue. Mike's laughing. You guys have available to you some tech presentations and clinics. Utilize them. We all should. It's really hard to keep up with everything available. I have to having 2-step authentication. Great. I tried to deal with renewing my passport. They wanted me to be using one of these password authentication apps. I couldn't make it work. I gave up. I got a printout. God hope I never have to use it because I don't even know where I put it. I think it's saved on my computer. Good luck finding it, right? So we need to keep informed because burden's going to be placed on us to make sure that we're on safe online. And even if we do all these steps, we know that there are data breaches out there that can expose us anyway. My social security number was most likely exposed in the incident I had and had to lock down and freeze my credit report. But I know it was already compromised when the IRS's transcript portal got hacked. The UW got hacked. University of Minnesota got hacked. I got multiple exposures with this stuff. Um, so that's why I have to monitor and I have things locked down. It's just too much to keep up with. But you need to make sure, and they make us do it, right? We've all ran into it's time to update your password or that pass. I had one that said my password was weak and it wouldn't let me go forward with it. Found that annoying. First time they just rejected it outright is try again. But it's for our own benefit, no matter how annoying it may be. Some of my victims have had to change their phone numbers because, again, they were hooked and they repeatedly were targeted. They repeatedly fell victim to the point when somebody intervened, they changed the phone number. We even had to do a address forwarding of the mail because the scammers were then targeting them by mail. Creating a new email address, if they got you through your email, they're going to target you again. So it's really inconvenient. And then if you have identity theft, people get really frustrated with going through the steps there because you really do need to reclaim your identity. And people get really frustrated because it seems like there's all these hoops to go through to reclaim it when it didn't seem that hard for the scammer to get it. And it's true, it's overwhelming and daunting. But the burden gets shifted to us and we have to do it if we want to go forward confidently. Use your antivirus and anti-spyware. My mom doesn't run it. It's on the laptop I gave her. She doesn't run it. When I'm home, I try to remember to go onto her computer and run everything to make sure it's protected and updated. Doesn't do you any good if you're not doing it. Again, with the passwords. And then deleting messages from unsecured sources. Don't open them. And utilize. So all of that, while you're dealing with all of that, utilize your informal social and lifestyle supports. Find your supports. Some people have more than others. Be mindful as a community, those in your neighbors and friend group that may be more isolated. They're less able to run a scenario past somebody to confirm whether or not it's a scam. Listen to them when they're talking to see if potentially they have fallen victim so you can help disrupt the cycle. And if they have, who can they contact and assist with that? So some of these, are congregate and home food deliveries. I'm presenting to a Meals on Wheels delivery drivers in a couple of weeks because they may be the only sole contact. If you volunteer, I saw through Dane County RSVP, they had calls to seniors once a week. You could volunteer so that those people can pick up on signs because that interaction sometimes is what can put us on alert and then assist us in helping somebody just from that conversation. Know what decision support agreements are out there, what documents and supports exist so that you have some backup out there because the world doesn't get any simpler, right? My dad would not do anything online. He got mad when my mom bought the first microwave, changed the TV to satellite. He was not going to learn any of this. He never would use the cell phone. And now it's virtually impossible to navigate sometimes. So if, my dad would need this, he had my mom, but if you don't have a person, you want to have something there to back you up because it gets more and more complicated. If anybody's gone to purchase something at Best Buy and have the experience of your credit card being denied, right? If it's $1,000 charge, Citibank, they deny your credit card. They then text you. You have to confirm it's you and run it again over Christmas. Gentlemen left me, I was out on Christmas break, left a furious voicemail. Credit card got denied. Well, if that was my dad that didn't have a cell phone, I was talking to somebody at a couple months ago when I was in Best Buy. What do you do? He didn't know because if they denied his credit card, he's not going to get that text because he doesn't have a cell phone. It's more complicated and requires tech for a lot of things we do. So reach out, utilize things on your accounts. You can have read only statements where the bank statement gets mailed to somebody. Doesn't notify anybody, alert them when you can lose. I had a victim, $20,000 one day, got follow up, went out, lost 30,000 the next day. Read only statements weren't going to help her. You can have limits set on things. You can have trusted person designations with the bank so that the bank sees there's somebody else there they can contact so maybe they can intervene because your tellers, if you go in and demand your money, the bank teller eventually is going to just give it to you. They don't have the ability to refuse you. The investment bankers, your Charles Schwab's and such, they can freeze it or suspend it, not the bank. You can set limits on your credit cards, your debit cards. Like I said, I get notifications. My daughter's bank accounts, I'm her power of attorney. I have notifications if the balance drops below a certain dollar amount or if there's a transaction of a certain size. Take advantage of them. Find out what's available to you and utilize it. My mom hated the idea of auto banking and auto pay, hated it. So she had some glitches. Now we set it up, and now she's still leery of it. She doesn't have to worry about being targeted with, there's a problem, you haven't paid your account, you need to do this, or we're going to disconnect your electric. She doesn't have to worry about that because if she got that call, she's going to be mad. The bank, because what are you talking about? You wouldn't just pay them. Slow it down. Anything like that can slow down with slow scammers access. You got the means and your finances are complicated enough. There's money management and bill pay services out there that can assist you. Those that are having difficulties managing their money, they could agree to the representative payee for their Social Security. And sometimes that's necessary so that person at least will make sure that their money and their bills are getting paid if they're being targeted again and again. Financial powers of attorney. I did a presentation on the subject. They're an invaluable tool. You got to know what you're doing. The person that you give that power to needs to know that agent you name needs to know their duties and responsibilities, and you need to include protections in them. They're invaluable. It's not just because you have access out there. Something happens and you can't pay your bills, and say Madison Metro hits you, and you need somebody to sue. There's a problem with your Social Security while you're laid up. They're not going to just take care of it informally because they have your logins. So it's not just about your assets. And be mindful, gaining access to services is really can be daunting. So you attend this presentation, you've attended other presentations. Again, know who people are you're going to call. ADRC, myself, the deputy sheriff, they know the sheriff's office, they'll know who to direct you to, know who you're going to call, who's going to connect you. Because if you're left on your own, Dane County, as you found out, fabulous resources in Dane County. Not all counties are created equal. Not all are going to get the response that you can get here in Dane County. Some are very dismissive of financial exploitation and scammers. They'll say it's a civil matter. You need to call an attorney. If you ever talk to a private practice attorney, my friends there are making very good money. Going to charge $300, $400, $500 per hour. Especially if we cost a lot of money, we're going to have a difficult time coming up with it. I'm an attorney and I would struggle. And also getting to the right attorney, take care of it can be daunting. And not all counties have a lot of access. Lots of parts of the state that don't have a lot of attorneys practicing in that area. You don't seem to think that's a possibility if you're in the Madison or Milwaukee area. We have an overabundance of folks, not everywhere in the state. Legal aid is really limited. Staffing's an issue. Modest needs programs available through the state bar, but not in all practice areas. And again, there's issues with staffing, finding attorneys willing to accept those rates and those programs, legal aid in the modest needs program, are asset and income restricted. The Elder Rights Project at Judicare and Legal Action has taken hits under the grant cuts just like we have. And so the free resources are going to be limited as well. And remember when you're Googling folks, not all of our results are created equal. It's really easy to fall victim to a scam because you have to sort through. People got terrible, right? You've got 3, 4, 5, maybe a whole page of sponsored responses before you get to what you want. You can type in annualcreditreport.com and it won't be the first choice. Come down about 3 words down. So be mindful of what you're searching. And if you're having difficulty sorting through it, ask for help. Because I have people re-victimized time and time again because they're looking and trying to sort through legitimate help and scam help that's coming through on those pages. You rely too heavily on the guy next door or your bartender. I used to do divorce work and I competed against a lot of bartenders practicing law without a license. People coming in saying, but so-and-so said, so-and-so divorced in Texas. That's not how it works here. So be mindful of people that offer up help that may not know all there is to know on the subject. And be very cautious of those Facebook experts. So as we finish up, again, know what your support options are. There's
different things online for those that have been targeted by romance scam, support groups. Do your homework, ask their help to sort through some of that. ADRC offices are a valuable resource for everybody. I refer a lot of people back to ADRC if they've been scammed because they might need additional resources. Senior centers are out there scheduling presentations. You know, it's groups out there. Utilize who your people are to gain access to other sources because it is really hard to sort through everything. So before we go to a few questions, I have new, oh, I don't know if this is showing. There we go. We have to do surveys now. I really hate them when I do presentations, so now I understand and I do all of them. So if you can either take that website, takes you to my Zoom survey, or you can pull it up. I'm teaching people how to do this. I thought it was really annoying. So go, if you don't want it, that's fine. You can hold your camera up too, as if you're taking a picture of that box. And then it'll come up as the UF06 web. Click on that. It'll take you to my survey. So for those of you that are inclined, try it. My first round doing this now. So yeah, something to play. I have paper ones at my in-person presentations, and I still want to try doing it on the screen. And it's cool if I managed it. And I just linked up those right to my Zoom, and then I can access the survey there. We do use that. I use that too in my presentations and additional information people wish they would have gotten from it and what they did need. Because these are all works in progress. We want you to get what you need from them. So hopefully you had time to do that. Then our next one with my contact information, I will send a PDF version of this to Mike so he can send it out. Granted, it's not proprietary rights to anything, so you can utilize that information as you see. If it's credit, if you do, I appreciate it. But you can, the PDF, use it as a reference or share however you see fit. So, is there anybody out there with any questions?
Please unmute yourselves, everyone, and give Sonia a little bit more to talk about. Thanks, Sonia. That's a ton of information here.
Overall, keep it under an hour.
I had one thing I was thinking about, and this came up when you were talking about password managers and not trusting them. I use a password manager, and of course, you have to choose one that's convenient to use and one that's trustworthy, and I trust the one I'm using. But one service that password manager provides is analysis of your passwords to inform you, whether they're strong or not, and they're different degrees. Another is searching for username and other data on the dark web. And so, it gives a report. Well, we found your email address at such and such data breach, and this password was, this username and password was used on such and such account. You better change it. That kind of thing. So I found that very useful.
I think I know those I know I've gotten an alert that the password is out there and I'm like, great. Yeah, it's just kind of personal preference on that. I'm just not comfortable with it. I know I need to. I should. It's probably safer than what I do, which is carry around a little address book with all of my login. It's not the safest, but I can keep it all straight.
So we have a question here from Tom Bronick. He's here in the Broadcast Central with me.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the internet and the internet itself, and everybody uses it, talks about it. What is it, and who owns it, and who maintains it?
Somebody on the internet maintains it. Why? How does it have access to it? Like getting on the higher speeds, right? Worldwide. But the information highlighted that at least awfully for a student and the others get on it. That's why it's so hard to bear and what is they learn to need to the website in that box symbol to make sure that it's secure. But various countries are taking advantage of it regulating information out there. The UN, all about, react to everything. So it's now highly regulated and it's very aware of. So you need to definitely, try your best, basically, and look to make sure it's secure and check different information sites to see that it's, that somebody's reported or filed a complaint. Tell them to the Facebook shopping. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. I clicked on a person saying, and the it was a scam site because they had taken a picture from an artist, their website. I didn't know that they were selling. Should know better. It's too cheap to be that. And then they sell, you got to begin to mail it on this cheap now. But I got what I paid it for, but what I got it was buying. So it's very much fire beware out there on the internet. Not from the internet, I'm afraid. They're going to offer the ride when it comes to it and use it, the tools, which got to be safe out there.
We're having a little problem with your audio, Sonia. I'm not sure if it's a microphone or what the devil it is, but it's really garbled.
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
All right. Who else has a question? Yeah, Sue. Unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you now perfectly.
Okay, Sonia, I saw you a couple weeks ago and I'm kind of following you all around because I have two issues that I've been working on for about over a year. One is a dog that I actually bought. And this dog was very defective. I don't like to use that word in a dog, but it had an eye problem. I took it to my vet. They referred me to the vet hospital, and you could tell damage on its eye and its forehead, like it had been hit or something. And at the hospital, they said they could do a neurological exam for $4,000, and I'd already had $3,000 in the dog. So I did take it to the Better Business Bureau, and they changed agents or something in the middle of mine. I never heard anything. So that's a $3,000 investment. The other one is a GE refrigerator that the warranty, it just stopped working. The warranty stopped after 2 months from a year, 2 months after the year warranty. And I was in the hospital and I have doctor records saying, I was recovering from some surgery and complications. So what would you recommend for both of those issues? I'm trying to get at least some money back for the fridge and something back for the dog that was neurologically damaged.
You can go to that cat, the Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection. See how the consumer protection laws.
Not hearing you good again. Sorry.
In the chat.
What was that?
CAP, Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, Consumer Protection.
So that's DAP. We've had guys there on give us numerous presentations, and they're really helpful. Call DAP, and they can really help you.
Can you spell that a minute, Mike?
Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're saying I should take both of my issues to this Department of Ag and Consumer Protection? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they actually have people who are going to follow up. They're going to get in touch with the parties that you're dealing with, and they may be able to help you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike and Sonia.
Hey, who else? Please jump in. if don't go, I'm gonna come up with another one. That's a threat. Okay, so I got another thing here, Sonia. I got mixed up in a little bit of a little consumer, well, fraud. And, the means by which they extracted the money was debit cards linked to Google Pay. Now, ordinarily on your debit card, you have a set limit, per day. You get out $300 for whatever you set it at. There was some rule regulating debit card use with Google Pay that voided that rule. It was not followed. And so before it stopped, they had $4,500 through Google Pay. Now, never mind that these, the money was sent to all sorts of fraudulently set up accounts, but be really careful when you're using your debit card. Know the rules. Talk with your bank to see what the rules are.
I was imagining it was a great transaction, not a capital fraud thing, potentially. When you're on, I don't use your debit card, put your credit card in, use a debit card because it's easier to deal with the credit companies than your bank because it's not authorizations, contacting vendors, and it's basically anything that offline, use credit card, have a debit. If I'm traveling anywhere, well, you get a debit card. Okay, my nationwide winners. You get an element, they require it. But unless I'm there, credit card. The other guys, when you have all the state credit card, never use my debit card. I learned from my own experience dealing with the local bank that if they steal that information, not guaranteed you're going to get that.
With credit cards, they verify the parties in the transaction, but apparently with debit cards, there's no verification there. And, with a credit card, those are delayed transactions. It takes a couple of days for that to go through. And so, if you're using those apps that your mom doesn't like, Sonia, I get a notification a few seconds after the transaction begins. So that really helps me
I
follow.
can help you if you get comfortable with it. I'm going to let you do it. But I use it because, pending is great. Debit card, I say pending, but it doesn't tell you why. And you can't do anything with it. I had something questionable, so I did everybody like my side.
Yeah.
But if you want to report that it's all, it's like, I think we go through. Try to be aware. I realized it is something I initiated, but I questioned the right because it went for the card vendor. And so when the charge came through, I get a notification, everything. And it recognized it was like a vendor. And what did I do? I thought I was ordering from the actual company. But it's so, and I guess actually go over, I recognize what it was. It did show up. And they, in my debit card. And so, I'm not for the actual care. Reported so that people charge you for the outdated amenity, the debit. You should have said, you got to give us back my data card. So the guy shooting pending for days before the conference. I know it's still. You should try to cards. Pay off and pull the every month if you want. With the price rate. But like gas.
Yeah. So the sound is really difficult to understand now, Sonia, for some reason. Could you put your contact information in the chat box again for people who would like to try and schedule you for a presentation at their institution? Would that help anyone? That would probably be or you can always contact me if you need to get in touch with Sonia here and she can't get things freaked out.
I'm interested in her contact information as well for a group that I think would be very beneficial from her subjects.
Okay. Okay, and there it is in the chat box, everyone. Sonia's phone and email. And email's best, of course. I mean, she's a busy lady, and getting to everybody instantaneously is not easy. Okay, and then you can always get in touch with me too. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And Sonia, thanks a million. You know, this is invaluable. You know, usually people talk about how to avoid scams, but seldom do they tell you how to take care of things after you've had that problem. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right,
Thank you.
everyone. See you next month, everyone.